know it. Two questions that have really propped up some of the biggest scandals in American history. Well, tonight those questions are once again being asked, and they're turbocharged by the never before seen words of a man who was once described himself as Donald Trump's closest friend. America's most notorious sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein. What a title. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released email exchanges that they received from the Epstein estate, and in them, Trump's own name. Here's one email released by Democrats written by Epstein to accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell in 2011. I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Now, Maxwell then responded, I have been thinking about that. Now, again, that was 2011. Around the same time, the FBI began to consider that Epstein's crimes in Florida went beyond Palm Beach. Now, if you're wondering who Redacted is, Republican lawmakers revealed it's one of Epstein's most well-known survivors, Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide earlier this year. It's important to point out that she said that she never witnessed any wrongdoing by Trump, and Trump himself had never been charged with any wrongdoing tied to Epstein. But it does raise some pretty major questions, including over what Maxwell told DOJ number 2, Todd Blanche, earlier this year, claiming she never saw Trump in Epstein's house.
I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance.
You would have followed up with a question, right? You probably would have had many questions. Well, Todd Blanche never really followed up, which I have to say is beyond absurd. I mean, we trial attorneys, we don't want to ask one question too many, but really nothing? Seriously? I mean, if you were trying to figure out if she was lying or telling the truth, or you wanted to confirm or gather information or just explore the possibility, you got to at least push her, maybe show an email. So I wonder, did he even know about these emails? You know, I can't imagine the deputy AG wouldn't have been briefed, had everything in front of him in some way, prepared to ask the specific questions to get to the answers. But then again, I couldn't imagine an AG, a number 2, going down there himself at all. I wonder, does Todd Blanche now intend to follow up with Ghislaine Maxwell? Here she's playing with puppies, has some free time at the other prison that she's now at. If he does, there's plenty more for him to consider. A second email is from Epstein to author Michael Wolff back in 2019, where Epstein wrote, Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Now here's why this one is important. Epstein's own words allege that Trump had some knowledge of his conduct. Now, I don't pretend to know what he means fully. It's an email. You got to judge for yourself what you think it means. But what's not clear is what Epstein was specifically referring to. Writing Trump, quote, knew about the girls? Is that Epstein's abuse of underage girls? Is it the notion that, in Trump's words, he stole girls from Mar-a-Lago as employees? Is it something else? Right, for follow-ups, right? The White House says the emails actually clear Trump.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever.
Transparency? They're talking about survivors who have been demanding the release of the Epstein files. They mean in full. Save some name redactions. Files that the administration doesn't seem to want out. But now they may soon have no choice. Why? Well, earlier today, Democrat Adelina Grijalva, who was once a congresswoman-elect, was finally sworn in. giving Democrats the number they need to force a House vote on releasing the Epstein files. You can cue the full court White House pressure campaign, by the way. The administration then called an urgent meeting in the Situation Room today, of all places, and we're told the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, was there, who you can actually see here. Todd Blanche, he was also there, along with FBI Director Kash Patel. And guess who else walked in? GOP Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, one of the 4 Republicans who defied the party and signed that discharge petition. But despite that meeting, Boebert did not pull her name from it. And remember, Congressman Thomas Massey isn't just supporting the petition, he's one of the lawmakers who wrote it. And with Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene still very much on the outs, all signs point that this vote is happening next week.
It's a totally pointless exercise. It is completely moot now. We might as well just do it. I mean, they have 218 signatures, that's fine. We'll do it.
Completely moot now. I better look that word up again. Here to break down Epstein's own words, 3 key voices who've closely tracked this story. Former Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg. His predecessor was in office when Epstein struck the controversial sweetheart deal in 2008. Senior reporter for The Bulwark, who has covered Magda's response to the Epstein story, Will Summer. And the editor-in-chief of All Rise News, Adam Klasfeld. He covered the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. He's with us in studio today. Let me begin with you, Dave, on this, because these newly released documents, they appear to create more questions than answers. And you say that some people should be worried tonight. What are you talking about?
Laura, there are 3 big losers with this document release. Number 1, Trump, of course. This is yet another self-inflicted wound. Instead of getting in front of this controversy, instead of saying, yes, we were friends, and then I ended it because he was a creep, he continues to gaslight us, saying this is a Democratic hoax. The cover-up can be worse than the crime. There's no evidence that Trump committed any crimes, but he's sort of acting like he did, and this controversy isn't going away until they release the files. Number 2 would be Ghislaine Maxwell. As you pointed out, she told Todd Blanche that she doesn't recall ever seeing Trump at Epstein's home. Well, these emails contradict that. So she can kiss the pardon and commutation of her sentence goodbye for now. I can't imagine that Trump's going to do that unless maybe he's walking out of office at the very end of his term. And then finally...
Well, hold on.
Yeah, and then finally...
I'm not going to see it differently. And here's why. She seemed to have said exactly the things that one would want you to say if you were going to say, I never, Adam, in any way knew him or saw him there, called him a gentleman at one point in time, I believe. I wonder, do you see it that her words are so contradictory from what Epstein says he saw in his house that it would remove the possibility of a commutation?
I don't know if the commutation is actually connected at all to the truthfulness of her testimony. I mean, Trump's pattern of delivering pardons and commutations are much more geared toward loyalty to Donald Trump. And so I agree with Dave here on this in the sense that there is no way to read what this email says as at all consistent with what she told Todd Blanche, but that wasn't the assignment. The assignment with Todd Blanche was to distance Trump from this scandal, and that's what she did, and I don't think that's going to be part of a thoughtful consideration by one Ed Martin in the pardon attorney office.
I wonder, because her statements talked about not having recollection and all the different statements she was making, and then her email saying, I have been thinking about that with respect to Epstein's own words. Again, she's a convicted criminal at this point, and for the reasons that the jury found and the court found. Will, President Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing, but then there's this moment where Epstein alleges Trump knew of his conduct, saying of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop, and then I know how dirty Donald is, and how does the MAGA base see this?
I mean, those are some very weird emails.
Yeah.
Some of them precede Trump's political career. So it's sort of, what would the advantage to Epstein be of if he was making this up in emails? It's unclear.
But he's not clear what it means that he knew about the girls.
Exactly, and I mean, Epstein has a very kind of cryptic writing style, very clipped, so it's often hard to see exactly what he's up to. In this case, I think the past few months we've seen since the initial Epstein blow-up in July, when the DOJ tried to close this case. I think the Trump administration's efforts to suggest that being interested in the Epstein case is just sort of a liberal plot or a liberal fiction, I think that's paid some fruit to the administration. I think there are a lot of people in right-wing media who say, well, this is a Democratic distraction.
So how will the vote go next week?
Well, I think the Republicans who have supported the discharge petition will stick with it. And I think these emails do put more pressure on Republicans in general to follow through and to at least investigate to some extent.
Dave, you're a prosecutor. You know the investigation process quite well. I mean, there's a lot of the politics at play, as you know. But then it's the idea of the Epstein files, the Epstein estate, excuse me. It wasn't the DOJ that released these documents to the House Oversight Committee. Congressman Ro is questioning why the DOJ didn't obtain these earlier. Do you have any insight as to the role of the estate here going forward in terms of a criminal context possibly versus the congressional oversight?
I don't see any crimes being prosecuted by this administration relating to Epstein, and I think by the time that Trump leaves office, I think this issue will subside. I do think eventually the files will be released, but I think it'll take until Trump leaves office. As far as why DOJ didn't have these emails, I think this is all in the Epstein file, but they're not being released at the orders of Donald Trump. The reason why the Epstein estate released this is because they received a subpoena because 3 Republicans joined the Democrats on the committee to go ahead and vote over the objections of the majority of Republicans to issue these subpoenas to the Epstein estate. That's what set this all in motion. This is the day that Trump wished had not arrived.
Adam, you covered Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. You know this case so well. When you look at just the arc of this entire case, from the sweetheart deal to the moving of her to this other prison where she's getting, according to a whistleblower, all sorts of benefits, even the help of potentially the warden in crafting a commutation application. The Epstein friendship with Trump is still the core of people's questions and what they're wondering about. What can you tell us about the way that's playing out now?
I think that what is playing out now is that some of the things that we had heard about for a long time, we heard about the recruitment of Virginia Giuffre at Mar-a-Lago in court proceedings, in Ghislaine Maxwell's trials. We had seen the flight logs. What happened today, what was made clear from the emails from Epstein's estate, is that Epstein said, yes, he knew about the girls. The suspicion, the knowledge, that question was a key piece of the puzzle, and that's what made today such a watershed.
The fact that Virginia Giuffre in the past has said that she and has not implicated Trump in any way, does that throw cold water on the revelations of today?
I don't think so at all. I think it's almost besides the point. It wasn't about whether that victim accused Trump of any wrongdoing in that room. It was about his knowledge, and that was the context. It didn't matter who was behind that redaction. It was who was the dog who hadn't barked. Who did Trump know about the girls? And that's what made these particular emails so explosive.
They went to the Situation Room today. It strikes me that this must be a particularly elevated level of concern in the White House to bring in a congressperson, Lauren Boebert, to bring in the FBI director, the Attorney General, Todd Blanche as well. Tell me about the level of concern in the White House tonight.
I think it's clear that the administration is very concerned about this story. I mean, this is a full court press to try to convince Lauren Boebert to drop out, and to her credit, I think she didn't. But
you know why she said no?
One thing I believe she said, when you push her that much, she's sort of going to dig in, and for one aspect of it. But it's almost unprecedented, I think, to have one member of Congress in to get sweated by so many people, high up people in an administration, on an issue that the administration and Mike Johnson claim they don't really care about. We know Trump has said, oh, Epstein, you don't hear that name much anymore. So, the public face they put on is, oh, this doesn't matter. But privately, it's obvious they're very concerned about it.
They're bringing in some of the highest level and powerful people in the DOJ on this very issue. Thank you, everyone. Up next, the